I'm going to explain what Easter is. First of all, in the first two chapters of the Bible, in the first book of the Bible, which is Genesis, you learn about Adam and Eve. This is man, first woman ever created. They're both tricked and they sin. The serpent, which is the devil, tells them that they'll be fine if they eat this fruit on this tree, right? Which is the tree of life. So they both eat it. Well, the woman eats it first because she's tricked by the serpent, and then her husband, Adam, eats it. And because of that, every single person from the beginning of time all the way to the end of the world now has sin entered into them because they ate of the fruit. Okay? And then if you go to Exodus chapter 23, the whole chapter, you'll read the story about the Passover. See, the Israelis were enslaved by Egyptians, and God sent one plague after another against the Egyptians, and he would keep Moses, who was over them, would keep saying, "Let my people go." Well, he wouldn't do it, and finally, the last plague comes, the 10th plague, and God tells them to take lamb blood and put it over their doors. So that night, an angel of death came, and every door that had the blood on it, the angel would pass over the door and would not kill the firstborn of their houses, which means all of the firstborns of Egypt were killed. And that's why they have something called the Passover. Now, in Matthew, which is the New Testament, which is about Jesus, in chapter 26, verses 1 through 2, it says, "And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, Ye know, after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed and crucified." So now we're at a point where Jesus is telling them he's going to be crucified, and they're celebrating the yearly Passover, which is again the celebration of what I was just talking about. Now, if you're curious about the actual date, this video was recorded in 2018, because I don't know how long it'll be up on YouTube or whatever, but because of it being 2018, that means Passover this year will start March 30th and it'll go through April 7th. It's a week-long celebration to celebrate the Passover. So Jesus is arrested and they have him crucified. It's now Friday. 3 days later, which is Easter, his tomb is found empty. And for 40 days afterwards, his disciples and others see him all throughout Jerusalem talking and teaching. In Acts chapter 1, verse 9, he ascends up to heaven. So he was arrested when he had committed absolutely no sins. They accused him of doing all kinds of things, and it was enough to where the leader that was at that time in charge was Rome, was a leader named Pontius Pilate, and they decided that he would be crucified. So they crucified him. Now in the Old Testament, in the book of Psalms chapter 22:16, verse 16, it says, "For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked has enclosed me, they have pierced my hands and feet." This is a prophecy of the crucifixion from the Old Testament. This was a prophecy about him being crucified. Like I was saying, it was sinless. He was put on the cross and crucified when he did nothing wrong, but there was a purpose behind this. He was supposed to die on the cross for our sins because a ransom had to be paid, and he did it, and he died on the cross and rose from the dead. This was a basic, generic explanation. There's a whole lot more details about it, but that's the basic overview of it. But if you're interested in all the details, I have something interesting to say. What if I told you found out you had a long-lost brother? You would want to know everything about him. Of course you would. Or of course you have a mother and father. Everybody had one mother and one father. But you also have a creator. It's the same thing, finding a long-lost relative. It's the same thing as finding God. Why wouldn't you want to learn absolutely everything about him, just like if you had a long-lost brother? So if you are interested, go to upci.org or UPC Church Locator and find a church in your location and learn all things about the Creator. Learn the whole story. That is the story what I gave, but all of the small details. Learn the whole story, because it's the same as or finding a long lost brother. Why wouldn't you want to know absolutely everything about the one that created you? I hope this was helpful and interesting. Thank you, and have a nice day.